Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Driving Innovation in Insurance, a series of virtual panel discussions focusing on the impact of digital transformation on the insurance value chain. I am Rodhar Bhattacharya from Hindustan Times, and we are here today on episode 2, Reimagining Customer Experience. Our discussion today will revolve mostly around how insurers are leveraging AI and machine learning driven decision making to improve customer engagement. Joining me today are some esteemed thought leaders from the insurance industry, including Pushan Mahapatra, Director, Strategic Investments and Digital Initiatives as SBI General Insurance, Vishal Subharwal, Executive Vice President, E-commerce and Digital Marketing, HDFC Life Insurance, Saurabh Chatterjee, President and Head Technology, Digital Sales and Travel, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance, Oliver Börner, Transformation Lead, Financial Services, DACH region from SAS, Saurabh Tiwari, CTO at Policybazaar, and Prasad, Partner for the Insurance Practice at McKinsey and Company. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us today. We will begin the session with a keynote address by Prasad on the importance of digital analytics and in embedding insurance in the background of each consumer journey. This will be followed by a keynote presentation by Oliver Börner detailing how exceptional customer experience can maximize the economic outcome of an organization and help them reach their business goals. Following that, we will be proceeding with the panel discussion where our experts will share their thoughts on today's topic. We are also live on social media, and we have audience on Zoom here as well. So don't forget to ask questions. Without further ado, let's get started. I would first like to invite Mr. Lad to begin his keynote speech.
Good evening, everyone. This is a topic which has been of massive interest and at the cutting edge of innovation for the insurance industry over the last 2 to 3 years. And if anything, the COVID crisis has accelerated the need for this. And this is a topic on which one can keep talking for a very long time, right? And if one starts unpeeling the onion a little bit, one could talk about 20 to 25 themes that can emerge. But what I wanted to do is use the next 5 minutes to actually lay out 3 to 4 most important themes that, in our belief as McKinsey and Company, insurers need to keep in mind, insurers, distributors need to keep in mind as one thinks about reimagining the customer experience, right? I think the first, and as I talk about this, I recollect in 2013-14, I'd gone with a few of our Indian clients to visit Pengan. And at that time, Peter Ma, the founder, had said, Pengan is one of the biggest leading insurers globally. And at that time, their biggest strength was their large agency force, right? And in speaking of digital, he mentioned something very interesting, right? He said, the problem with doing insurance digitally or the customer journeys for insurance is people don't wake up thinking about insurance, right? People wake up thinking about their health. People wake up thinking about the houses they want to buy, the cars they want to buy. And therefore, if one needs to create the ideal customer journeys in the insurance space and customer experiences in that space, it has to be for these products, and insurance should be embedded literally at the back end of this. Right, and from there on, now Pengan has gone to create, the biggest digital housing network in China. That platform is $8 billion. They've created this auto platform which does 70% of used car sales in China, and therefore this is one thing which everybody has been looking at. Right, in India also, a lot of insurers are thinking about on these lines. And future of insurance, therefore, is not just reimagining customer journeys on insurance. This is reimagining the customer journeys on all of these products. The other thing which generally people end up focusing too much energy on when we speak about customer journey reimagination is the onboarding the journey when a customer basically buys a policy with the insurer, right? And while that's fair, because 60 to 70% of the insurer's cost actually OPEX actually is around acquiring customers, right? Having said that, the real customer experience and the value creation is much more on some of the other parts across the value chain, right? If the claims experience is not great, there's a very good chance that the customer will not come back to us, and therefore you'll see lower persistency / renewal, which will mean there will be a significant value destruction which will happen. On the other hand, if you give a great experience there, that completely transforms what you can do, right? Similarly, just the renewal journey being a single click is quite critical, right? So as one thinks of reimagining customer journeys, I think there is significant value that can be driven and is involved in the journey just beyond onboardment. The other thing when we speak about digital and analytics is people tend to focus a lot around reimagining the customer journey on a direct to consumer channel, the digital direct to consumer channel, right? But in our view, it is equally important on how you are going to reimagine the journeys on all the traditional channels, so that your intermediaries, the agents, the bank RMs, can deliver the journeys in a very efficient manner using digital tools. We do this consumer research literally every month now from the time COVID had launched. And we had expected that as soon as we do a survey like this, people will say 70-80% of the people will say we want to buy insurance directly, right? Direct digital. The surprising thing is actually, while there is 20-25% of the customers who are saying we want to now buy insurance digitally, almost 70-80% of them are saying we still want to buy our insurance with our agents or our bank RMs or the brokers, but we don't want to meet them face to face, right? We want this to happen in a manner where this happens through video, but we still want the same level of comfort in the interaction that is happening, right? So post COVID has become even more important as to how you transform the entire customer journey in a way that your intermediaries can deliver this, right? And the last thing, which is very important as we look at this, is as insurers think about reimagining journeys, this is not anymore about being the best in class in terms of what other insurers are doing or financial services companies are doing. Customers are experiencing some of the best experiences across platforms, right? So the customer journey and the experience has to be one which beats Amazon, Google at the play, right? And that requires a lot of advanced analytics as you kind of build these journeys. So I think these are some of the themes that I wanted to leave with all of us as we get into this discussion. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion.
I think that was a very interesting few points and a good start to our discussion here today, setting up context for what we are going to go into much more detail during the panel discussion with very senior leaders that we have on board today. Moving forward, I would like to invite Mr. Börner to begin his keynote presentation. Mr. Börner, over to you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you some insights and ideas and thoughts from Europe, especially from Germany, from the German market. At the moment, I'm sitting really together with an insurance company having a full-day workshop talking about lead management. And it just sneaked out to present you some slides, some ideas of driving innovation in insurance. And then, of course, I'm really looking forward to the panel discussion later on. So, driving innovation in insurance. One of my customers, Allianz, I think they're doing it right because they introduced a chief customer officer, so a customer advocate on the C-level, who's really responsible to really check every single aspect, every single process, every single journey within the insurance company, and to think of how can we improve it? How can we improve it? Thinking about, okay, we need to start with the customer. We should not focus on the policy. We need to think to start with the customer. What does the customer need? What is important to him? And this is exactly what it's all about. But if you ask this question, so what do our customers want? Then we see, and these are let's say numbers from Germany, but they are almost identical to whole Europe, and they're quite similar to some extent to the Asian or Indian market as well. Saying at the moment, we have still a domination of classical channels like telephone, email, the agents, brokers, and so on. But in 2030, in 10 years, we have this overarching platforms. Digital will dominate, centralization instead of individual touch points, and so on. So we need to think of, okay, how can we help our customers today, but how can we do this in future? And how can we really, help our customers and our organization to follow this digital transformation? and it's dramatically more. And this is something which is extremely important. If we think about customer journeys, if we think about customer experience management, it's dramatically more than only focusing on marketing, on sales, but it's something across the whole customer life cycle. So it's about the customer acquisition. It's about service to sales. So service is so powerful. Claims, it's the best thing ever. To use every single claim to prove that this decision for this specific insurance company was right. Real-time next best actions, not next best offers. It's not about selling products or policies. It's about having the right answer to every single question or demand of the customer. And even things like portfolio optimization or churn prevention. So when we talk about customer journey, then we need to really think about every single aspect of the customer and how the customer moves along the customer life cycle. So our solution, and I really apologize that the slides by themselves just move from one side to another, and I'm sure that I'm not the best PowerPoint guy and I did something wrong, but doesn't matter. So our solution for facing this is a central decision engine. And we will come to this later on when I talk a little bit about examples, how or what I do at the moment with my customers, saying, okay, if you have the central decision engine, a brain, more I say, which is really, connected to all of the different data that we have. So there's a 360-degree customer view. So inventory data, external data, which is so important, events, triggers, socio-demographic data of an insurance company here in Germany. And they said, you know what, Oliver, the best information for us, to start a conversation with a customer is that he bought an insurance policy from another insurance company. So you can use this as a trigger to get into, let's say, the conversation with the customer. And of course, you need to apply analytics because you have so much data that without analytics, without artificial intelligence or machine learning capabilities, it's really hard to really understand all of the information and to find the optimal next best action, and optimal in a way of what is the best for the customer, what is the best for the organization, to find the best balance between customer satisfaction on one hand and the revenue on the other hand. And then the central decision engine integrates with all of the different channels, the online, the mobile, direct sales, so everything which belongs to the insurance company, but also sales partners, agents, brokers, intermediates, and what is really, really important, the customer service. So a central decision engine, and then we integrate with the channels, which is so important because otherwise the traditional way is you have isolated tools in every single, let's say, department. So you have all of the silos, nothing is really connected, and therefore you wouldn't be able to provide this consistent customer experience. But this really sounds like theory, and let's dig a little bit into some of the things that I do at the moment with our customers. But just to setting the scene, so at the moment when we talk, every second insurance customer in Germany is really, well looked after because of our customer experience solutions by SaaS. So more than 52 million customers out of the 83 million people living in Germany. Which is really great. I'm really proud of this, and I work with almost all of these insurance companies together. But I really want to focus on three, which is R plus V. This is the insurance company that I'm at the moment sitting at, and Ergo, and Allianz for sure. I apologize that I cannot really name, let's say, the project to the corresponding insurance company because, some of them don't want really to share all of the information. But the examples that you will see in the next couple of slides are from R plus V, Ergo, and Allianz. And this is really important. We are doing it right now. This is nothing that we plan in future. This is something that we do at the moment. And we help them to be ready for 2030. So the first example is saying, okay, you know what? We want to understand every single customer interaction, every single conversation. That is, let's say, the overarching goal. And then we discussed with, let's say, for this case, I can really name it, it's Allianz. And we said, okay, how can we help Allianz, to achieve that? And the first thing what we did was, okay, let's start with an MVP where we focus on emails. So just to do real-time text analytics on incoming emails, 300,000. And we did this with a proof of value MVP within 2 weeks. And we identified that 35% of these emails were completely wrong or centrally addressed. Yeah. So that means instead of a service or claims, they were sent to some other departments. And we all know here in our session that these 35% never received any reply at all, which is a really negative customer experience. So the brain was more or less this real-time text analytics saying, okay, we have the structured text. We combine this with everything that we know about this person. So we define the context. And based on this, we identified, okay, what would be the right department where we could send this to. That was really just a beginning, and it was perfect for text from the web, from emails, even direct mail for some really traditional insurance companies. And it was really great because, getting rid of the 35% wrong or centrally addressed emails to 100% correct addressed, it's dramatic. But this is only a small part. Now imagine you extend it to speech to text. And this is what I do at the moment with another insurance company. And as I said, we are talking about real projects. We're talking about something that I really do at the moment with my customers. So within the service center, and this is the first phase, having this in the service center. Later phases, the agent broker systems will have this as well. But at the moment, we focus on service. And what we do is we have the speech to text capabilities who work together with another company who is really capable of differentiating hundreds of even German dialects. I wasn't aware of that we have 250 dialects in Germany, and the system is capable of really understanding it. And in real time, whenever a person says something, and this system can differentiate 20 different persons in one call, by the way, it will trigger our solution saying, hey, somebody said this with that intention. So the context, content, and the sentiment. And then our central decision engine, so the brain, so to say, will reply saying, okay, maybe that should be the right next best action, or next best answer to that. And you can use this. I mean, this is amazing. First of all, you reduce, the call times in the service center, which is great because it reduces the cost dramatically. Second, it will improve the quality of the calls because during the conversation, so when I mention something, there will be a window in the service center agent front end, always mentioning, okay, what are the documents that the customer is referring to? What are the answers to his questions? What should we do? And it could be, or it can be service related, which is great, but it can also be sales related. A really simple and basic example would be that in the moment when I said to the agent, what, can we change the address because next week I'm on holiday and I will travel abroad? Then the system will automatically recognize this. And of course, it could then say the next best action is, let's talk about a travel insurance. You could say, okay, normally this is something that the agent should do anyway, but believe me, 50, 60, 70% of the agents, especially in the service center, would never ever do this. But also, and this is an amazing source of information, and I introduced this with one of my customers with Ergo, and I said, what about next best question in BQ? Why should we not ask the customer for information? I'll give you an example. Moving houses, so change of address. This happens a lot. In Europe, over all countries in Europe, almost 10% of the people in Europe change their address per year. In Germany, it's 9%. So it's a huge amount. And in most of the times, the customer takes the time and either gets on the website and do this in the self-service portal, or is calling the service center, or maybe is doing it with his agent and saying, okay, can you please change the address? Imagine we would ask some questions saying, hey, congratulations. So let's talk about the reason. So maybe it's a new job. It's getting married, getting divorced, birth of a child, retirement, something like this. You ask 2 or 3 questions, and you immediately know dramatically more than you ever knew about your customer. and it's so easy. And because of the fact that the customer took his time to get into contact with you as insurance company, he's probably, there's a high probability that he's really, happy to share this information. So we can use this as well. And for sure, what we do is, and this is great if you work together with brokers, for example, we take all of the next best actions, which happened during that conversation, and we then hand it over after the conversation to the agent or to the broker, so to sales, saying, you know what, we identified that this customer could be interested in this specific topic or product or something like this. This is tremendous. Yeah, improving customer experience, increasing sales, reducing costs, and really great use case. Last but not least, talking about claims handling. Claims handling, of course, insurance companies are really great with this kind of process, and for years they are automating it. So we have an insurance company in the UK who is doing this process that you just see here for more than 2 or almost 3 years. This process is fully automated. So instead of 14 to 20 days, it will take only a couple of seconds, from, let's say, the claim details, typed in on the web page, to the decision, will we pay for the repair or should we do a write-off or something like this. So fair enough from a process perspective, insurance companies are doing it right. But what about the customer? If you look at this process, more than 90%, I would always say 95 to 99% of the insurance companies, the only part of the whole process where they focus on the customer is here, the fraud check. So the only part where we incorporate the customer in the whole process is when we think that he wants to harm the insurance company, that he would do, that he had fraudulent behavior. Seriously, this is completely wrong to focus only on fraud if you want to see or think about the customer and especially customer experience. What about here? What about the decision if we should repair the car? Yes, no, write-off, something like this. We need to incorporate everything that we know about the customer in this part of the process here. And then saying, okay, normally we should decide that we will not pay for the repair because of something that happened in that case. But because of the fact that we know that this customer has 2 more policies within our insurance company, and that this has a really long-lasting relationship, and by the way, his kids are insured with our company as well, we will pay. Great. It's an amazing customer experience. It will increase loyalty dramatically, and this is exactly what we should really focus on. So this is what I do at the moment with an insurance company as well, saying we need to incorporate the customer in the whole claims handling process, not only to inform the customer where in the whole process we are at the moment, which is, by the way, low-hanging fruit and something that many insurers still not do, but also to incorporate the whole context of the customer. So all of the policies, all of the information, the whole customer profile, to incorporate it into all of the different decisions during the claims handling process. So these were more or less 3 different, let's say, examples of things that we do at the moment. And if you really think of what McKinsey validates, because they said, okay, before, but even now within, let's say, this COVID-19 pandemic, right? What is it that we can do as an insurance company? And they said, we need to focus on care and concern and meet your customers where they are, and so on and so on. And this is exactly what I talked about in the last 10 to 15 minutes. Focus on care. Listen to your customers, ask questions, think about next best actions, not offers. Meet your customers. When you have the central brain and you integrate with all of the channels, it doesn't matter if it will be a video chat or a chatbot or video telephony or the service center or the agent in person. It doesn't matter, because the system who provides the next best actions is exactly the same. And this is how you should think, and this is what most of the insurance companies that I work for do at the moment. So this was just an example, and it was just a brief overview of the possibilities and of the things that European insurance companies do at the moment, not what they want to do or what they plan to do, but what they really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm sure all of us have questions that we will ask towards the end. I already have one question from our audience, and we will take it up at the end of the panel discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you need to know, I mean, this is to our audience. If you need to know more on the topic, you can get in touch with Oliver by booking a one-on-one meeting or downloading resources available on our event page for the series that we are doing. The link to the page is available in the message box on the right of your screen. So we have a chat box that you can find. There's a button, I think, at the bottom, and you click on it, it opens up. My colleague is just going to put that link. You can click on that and connect with us if you are looking for a one-on-one session. It is now time for us to move on to the panel discussion. I would urge everyone in the audience to drop in their questions in the comments section. Actually, in the Q&A box, there's a Q&A button as well. You can share your questions there. We already have one or two questions from our audience, and we will take these up at the end of the panel discussion. Before we start, I have a quick poll for our participants, and this is open to our panelists as well. This is just to make things a little interesting. I'm just sharing the poll right now. Please. I'll open it up for about 30 seconds, ending the poll. So yeah, our question was, who is responsible for customer experience at your organization? This was a multiple, I mean, you could select more than one option because in some companies, customer experience may be looked after by more than one individual. But the overwhelming answer, 62% say COO, head of operations, followed by 32% for CMO. Interesting. Asking all our panelists to join in, we can start with the panel discussion. Thank you for joining in. So an interesting start to our webinar today. Prasad helped set up context, and then we had Oliver giving us a very, very interesting picture from what is happening in Europe. And I think, Oliver, what you mentioned was the numbers are pretty similar in India as well, as per your understanding, in terms of how distribution happens, the digitization state of the industry to some levels, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what you see is, and this is the real big challenge for all of the insurance companies worldwide. Everybody is talking about digital transformation, which will come definitely, but the reality still is that the traditional offline channels, so the agents, the brokers, the intermediates, they are the go-to persons. So, and this is exactly the journey that every single insurance company has to really to go through, how to get from the actual situation with the offline conversations and to the digital world, and this is similar, identical across the whole world.
Wonderful. Just requesting Mr. Subharwal also to join in. Mr. Subharwal, or maybe he'll join us in a bit. Hi, sir. Okay. So my first question is for Mr. Saurabh Tiwari. We have two Saurabhs, so I have to be careful by using the first name. The insurance industry has been perceived to be lagging behind when it comes to customer experience. What is your view, and what are the reasons for this perception? And I know some of our panelists here may not agree with the premise of the question, but yeah, I'm up to you.
No, I think to some extent I would agree, because it's been like 12th year since we have been running Policybazaar.com, and I do remember the time when we started our journey way back in 2008, and it was a very tough thought around how to manage the customer and how to manage the customer expectations. And digital was just upcoming, and now you see the condition where all our customers have a very different expectation from the digital world, and the customer experience and expectations have gone multifold. What I believe that one of the reasons why the insurance industry could not move forward on the customer experience, because it has been largely driven through a push mechanism, where customers are given, the insurance was sold, not being bought, and largely because of the awareness. That's my reason. I think a lot of people are here from the insurance industry. They will have a different understanding over it, and getting them onto the pull to buy a product was largely where we got to build the awareness into the system.
Mm.
And secondly, what I feel that traditional methods of selling insurance and giving product to the consumers were on the rise. If you talk about, as I think Börner said, that the agency channel is a predominant channel for selling and giving insurance product to the consumers, people tend to overlook the digital side of the world. And what happened when we started building the entire digital part of the insurance industry, I think there's been a very decent uptake, and the current COVID situation has also pushed it further north, where people have started realizing that going directly to the customer through digital channel, even though if you're going through your traditional channel, has become a pretty decent norm now, and I think it is going to further uptake.
Right.
So push and pull and agent versus going through direct to customer, as well as awareness of insurance product, has largely not made a significant change in that industry. However, if you see on the other side, the banking has been adopting digital practices from long time, and they are way advanced. This is my feeling. And one more thing which I always felt, see, insurance is a very involved product. It is not like buying fridge or TV or anything. It's a product that you will be buying for your life. For example, for term life insurance, which you're buying, you're gonna buy it once, and you don't know whether you will get the money when you will not be in this world, right? So when you are buying such a serious product, you need a lot of assistance. You need a lot of support, and people have generally relied upon the human relationships, where agents and different channels, banking channels, used to give the awareness to the consumers to buy product. So a lot of broken pieces were in the entire journey, and that is the reason the entire digital uptake has been little slow. But now I believe it's the time. It's a high time when people are moving for no contact, no touch, and started having a lot of maturity for digital, where our network speeds have actually gone multifold. Our communication through phone has become cheap, and people have started reaching out through digital channel through phones as well. All these things are converging pretty well, and the kind of consumer base that we are seeing, they are pretty young, who are actually, they use phone day in day out. Keeping all these scenarios together, I do see the things are gonna only move north from here onwards. That's my view, and I know, I mean, we will have a better views from the people who have seen it in their times.
I know. And it is interesting. I had a conversation earlier today with Mr. Chatterjee, and I know there will be I'm hoping there will be a contrarian view there. But Mr. Mahapatra, I first want to come to you from SBI General. From your perspective on this, do you agree with this statement when we say that the industry has been a little sort of behind the curve in, digital sort of the uptake? Where do you stand on this?
I would tend to agree with Saurabh on this point, that we have taken to digital not by our first immediate voluntary reaction. It's been more on the rebound. But having said that, the way we have really scaled up over the last few years is very interesting. Now, if we talk about one side is a pure B2C business, purely on the direct channels, on website, on mobile apps, integrating with digital partners. That's one part of the business. But you have got a very significant part of the business which is intermediated through agents, through brokers, through bank assurance partners. And that is where I think a lot of very interesting conversations are starting.
Right.
Today, if we look at some of the wonderful stuff, at least I can speak of one where even Prasad was involved with us, is around the building of this financial superstore on SBI's own digital application called YONO.
Yeah.
So if you see that, how different was the customer journey on that? I think it's been one of the most, for us, it's been such a satisfying journey that customers are ready to accept digital even through intermediaries. if one, they get value. Second, it makes their life smooth and easy. And that's something that across all channels, that's been our philosophy. Take everything which is useless out of the process.
Right.
Concentrate on what is required to complete the work on hand and facilitate the customer to complete his work very smoothly.
But Mr. Mahapatra, do you think the core question is that is the industry lagging behind in customer experience? Has that been less of a focus area? Maybe not deliberately, but because of the system and the processes.
It has been. Let's face it. It has been a low engagement category. But I think now almost I can speak for most of us, at least on the top bracket. We have been working extensively on increasing the engagement. Otherwise, traditionally it has been an engagement acquisition, and next we meet in an unfortunate event of a claim or the next renewal. So that is something that almost all of us have been working very, very strongly, and especially I can speak for general insurance in our non-life sector, that we have an opportunity of connecting at various life events of a customer.
Right.
Be it when he buys a house, when he buys a various motor car, or sends his children for education, and what have you. So every stage we have an opportunity of having this dialogue.
Okay.
Our job is to make that dialogue easy and smooth.
Mr. Subharwal, I just would like to bring you in here. You're the only one in a panel from a life insurance perspective. What is your view? I mean, customer experience, that is the main crux of our discussion today. Do you think the industry has been lagging behind? And if so, why has that traditionally been? Mr. Saurabh?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. So I think if you look at some of the consumer surveys which are done across industries, and not necessarily talking about India, but globally as well, insurance typically kind of comes at the bottom, right? Financial products from insurance, especially on the life side, tend to be more complex than maybe over-the-counter products like car insurance or any other general insurance product that you buy. Now the reason for this is, and Prasad kind of spoke about this, is you don't wake up wanting an insurance cover on one side, and on the other side your experience as a customer is influenced by your everyday shopping that you might do on Amazon or Google or Flipkart or any such digital media, right? So the customer expectation is at a certain level, and obviously as an industry, as a service provider to a consumer, you have to kind of move up the ladder in terms of customer experience, and there are efforts which have been made by organizations like ours, including us, over the last couple of years to kind of reimagine the customer experience and do it not just in customer acquisition, be it on the marketing side, on the digital marketing side, where a lot of AI/ML solutions are used for media buying, for example, or in terms of customer onboarding, where you can use a lot of third-party data or kind of ride on the Jandan Mobile Aadhaar Trinity, which is available for customer onboarding. You can use AI/ML solutions for underwriting or deciding the nature of underwriting that an application needs to go through, and also kind of segment the customer, and then to certain customer segments offer, let's say, a one-day claim settlement promise. So that is the kind of effort that companies like ours are making. So that is one piece. The other piece could be around, it's not just about the direct-to-consumer, processes. It's also about when an agent is interacting with a consumer. And a lot of agents, especially in today's scenario, are not interacting face-to-face, right? They are using a digital solution, and we have our own proprietary platforms that we have built, for example, that allow the agent and the customer to kind of have a conversation and get a bespoke code generated, complete the application digitally, without having face-to-face contact, right?
Right.
So,
Mrs. Subharwal, I'm really sorry we are having some audio issues, but my follow-up question to you on this was, I mean, as a life insurer, is it traditionally more difficult than the general insurance players to build on customer sort of experience, considering that your touch points are much fewer, I would imagine, with the customer, and you really sort of interact at the claims period, not with the same customer actually, but with his next of kin. So, just to understand this a little better, as a challenge for you.
So it's a function of the nature of the risk that you're underwriting.
Right.
So if one is looking at very long-term contracts and very, let's say, humongous risks, for example, term insurance, right? If you're looking at a 5 crore term cover, that's very different from somebody coming in for, let's say, a unit-linked investment plan or a savings plan or an endowment plan, where the risk cover is low. A lot of the component is actually oriented around investments, and a lot of the decision-making is around your KYC with a sliver of underwriting on top. However, if it's a heavily underwritten product, then obviously, and a long-term contract, then you have to account for all the risks that you're taking.
Okay. Saurabh, Mr. Saurabh Chatterjee, sorry, would love to bring you in here. I mean, I hope you have a contribution that would be interesting too. Customer experience, again, the question is the industry lagging behind?
See, thanks, Rudra. See, I have a contrarian view, as I was mentioning to you in the morning. Look, all the experts in the industry have spoken, and it's good to see an Allianz use case. We are a JV with Allianz in India. The thing around consumer experience or customer experience is, I would say insurance companies are extremely customer focused. Let me say, and they have been always consumer focused. What has happened, if you have to peel the onion sort of, if you today say that they are not consumer focused, they are consumer focused. Look at the claims general insurance industry does. We are bleeding, we are paying through the nose. Still the common perception is, right, from a consumer experience that, the claims are not paid or the processes are cumbersome around it. So let's peel the onion a little bit. The problem has been that the consumer expectations have never been there from a front-end standpoint. We have always been focused on the back end. If you look at, whether it's GI or life insurance, we talk about buzzwords like analytics, AI, ML, beyond the buzzwords, I believe insurance companies are fantastic, data scientists behind the scenes, right? Unlike banking, which went on in, 2005-06, right, in India, I would say, the actuaries, the kind of, data science that has been happening, but it is on the risk, right, on the risk side of things. What we have traditionally not done is the consumer side analytics, and there has been multiple reasons around it, the push and pull that has been talked about, the changing perception, the changing consumer segment. Look, at the end of it, what we believe is, and I'm sure, many would agree, consumer experience is all about trust and trustworthiness. And I define that as a formula. Let's go behind, the scenes a little bit. It is a combination of credibility that you have, the reliability that you have, and intimacy. If you sort of, add all of this, and I have not invented this definition, it's out there on Google, so I'm not building anything new, but I'll tell you what we have done. And it's inversely proportional to self-focus or self-orientation, which means more the brand or the insurance company is for the consumer, and it is taking steps towards that, the greater the trust.
I will just at this stage bring in Oliver. For a global perspective, and especially from Europe, you've been dealing with a lot of insurers in the European market. How are organizations reimagining customer experience there? You gave us a few examples, but maybe.
Okay, I mean, to be honest, and I really love to hear all of the different viewpoints here, and I really agree to so many of the things that were already said. The most important thing ever is that insurance companies in Europe, and I hear this for the Indian market as well, is that we focus on the customer. Yeah. And not as the colleague from Allianz said, on the back end, but let's focus on the customer. So we changed this. Yeah, and I remember, especially when I heard about this push and pull. Yeah, but this is exactly what I did 2 years ago already with Ergo, saying, okay, so instead of pushing buy, yeah, providing all of the things that we could do, even focusing on the service part, and then saying, okay, dear customer, you can choose whatever you want across all of the channels and any channel that you want. Because one really important thing, and this is what's so important when we talk about digital transformation and digital and offline and agents and whatsoever. Customers do not think in channels. They just want to interact with an insurance company because of the situation. And that can be online, that can be offline, that can be any channel in any combination. And if I want to be successful as an insurance company, I need to provide all the service and everything across all channels. And this is something that the insurance companies realize, and that they need to think and to work in that way. Yeah, and they're really doing it, and I'm really positive of it. Yeah, across the world. Yeah, we are not there where we want to be, but we are on the right track. Yeah, and I really like it. Yeah, and of course we could have done things better in the past. And at the moment, therefore, what they're saying is, we need focusing on the customer on one hand side, but on the other hand, we need to focus on our revenue as well. So to find the right balance between customer satisfaction on one hand side and the revenue for the insurance company on the other hand side. This is key. Because, of course, I can provide the best customer experience ever if I would give away all my policies for free. But then I'm bankrupt. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. And if I increase the premium all the time, my customers are really disappointed, frustrated, and they will leave. So I need to find a balance. And this is exactly what's going on right now. To use the analytics more for these kind of things, yeah, to introduce really customer experience or customer satisfaction as a measurement beyond the classical net promoter score, right? And what is one of the things that I see in all the big projects that I do at the moment is really focusing on the moments of truth. I mean, of course, we are using so many buzzwords at the moment in this conversation and even in my slides, yeah. And moments of truth is such a buzzword, but it's key. We need to react in real time, yeah. So the customer gets to us, and then we need to define the context of the situation, the event trigger, what happened, plus everything that we know, define the context. And then based on this context, having the next best action, our answer, yeah, that we can then distribute in a consistent way across all of the channels. As I said, customers do not think in channels, so it has to be consistent. And last, really important thing is, it has to be relevant. Yeah? So even to some extent, even more important than to differ between push and pull, yeah, it's about relevancy. Whenever something is relevant, yeah, then we are talking about a positive customer experience. And if you are lucky and we are able to sell something, if it's not relevant for the customer, yeah, we shouldn't do this. Okay, and this is exactly what's going on at the moment in Europe.
Right. Thanks, Oliver. Interesting perspective from the European market. Prasad, bringing you in here. I mean, you've been working with several insurance players, I think, in India and South Asia, right? I mean, what is your view of customer experience? We had a very contrarian view from Mr. Chatterjee. Not completely contrarian. I think he agreed on the customer interface front. More needs to be done, but a lot of innovation is really happening at the back end. So, which was interesting to know. What is your take on all of this?
So I think at least my take on this is insurance companies, if customer experience is a race, are running a 200-meter race where many of the consumer good companies they are compared to are starting at the 100-meter race point, and you have the same amount of time to kind of catch up, right? And driven by two things, right? You have to understand that the insurance companies have to deliver excellent experience at the customer's worst moments, right? Whether it be a health event, a life event, or even an auto accident, right? These are not easy things. And the second thing is, historically, and this is true in India and across markets, for insurance companies, the intermediaries were the source through which they kind of interacted with customers, right? For them, they were one level away from the customers, right? And that's how they've kind of looked at it. And that's what made sense, right? Because the agent was supposed to deliver the customer experience, and you were supposed to enable the agent to do this, right? Same with the banks. Having said that, I think two things which are important to give the industry credit for, right? I think the last 2-3 years, I think insurance has probably done more than any other industry in terms of delivering on customer experience. And second, particularly general insurance, but also life insurance on the term side, there is so much data that can be used to deliver a differentiated customer experience and create a very different kind. Insurance is the treasure hold of data, right? And what you can do with data and what you can deliver with data, right? And as Mr. Chatterjee was saying, some of the skill sets they already have, right? They just need to reorient from just the risk underwriting to the overall experience in terms of doing it, right? So I think if we look at 2030 as a benchmark, as Mr. Börner had done, it is very possible that the insurance companies can completely turn this around, in spite of the fact that they are running a 200-meter race versus a 100-meter race that everybody else is running.
Right. I think the thing is really that there's not a lot of choice here. I mean, as was discussed before, what customers expect from their plans is gone significantly much higher than ever before, and this is true for every industry. Even if you're, like you said, I mean, your position might be way back. So this is something that has to happen and is happening. My next question is for Saurabh Tiwari, but Policybazaar as a company has also sort of led that to some levels by making insurance much easier for people to consume online and understand and compare and do all of those things, because it's a difficult product at its core to sell, right? Saurabh, over to you. I mean, Saurabh Tiwari, sorry. Your organization has been at the forefront of catering to digital customers. What, according to you, is the next horizon of customer experience? Insurers have, of course, come a long way in their digitalization journey. All of our leaders spoke about that. But what do you expect from the insurers today, and how do you see your role evolving in that mix going ahead?
Correct. So first of all, I think our life is a lot simpler than what insurers have to do. So I'll be very honest, and they have tons of responsibility. They are the people who are going to take care of the end consumer experience at the end of the day. We are definitely at the front end. We are trying to bring the customer experience from a digital perspective, but the job of insurer is the most important. And what we believe as a company, Policybazaar, we want to collaborate with them. We want to work together with them. We want to build certain things which we are good in, and we want to complement and get those things from the insurer, where we can actually build the entire end-to-end customer experience. So that is the philosophy. And what we are right now focusing, and see, the only advantage that we had to go digital right from the day one, and it makes our life a lot simpler. Being very honest with you, because the moment you have so many channels, where you have a bank channel, the moment you have agency channel, that the way you have end consumer channel, and you have to take care of all these channels, the problem statement becomes bigger. For us, it's a lot simpler statement. What we are right now focusing upon when we look at the customer experience, and we definitely need to partnership with all the insurance company. We do interact with most of you who are here in the panel right now, and we connect on a daily basis. The area where we are very focused is data. And as Börner said, we do have a privilege of collecting information on customer right from the time when he comes onto the portal or the mobile app, and when we pass on the entire experience to customer to purchase the policy and take him to the level where he can be serviced over a long run as well. So this entire customer life cycle, if we start having a lot of information about the customer, we love to personalize the experience. And that is an area where we got to work. In fact, what Prasad was saying, I was about to speak. One area where we believe that there is a lot of support which has to come in from insurance company, and none of us have really spoke about it. In fact, Sourabh touched it some form, that we are now getting customer focused. The most important part is that the product that we build for the end consumers, the insurance product, doesn't need to really, one product cannot fit for all. It has to go through a lot of innovation. I do remember there had been time when I was buying some investment policy from X company, I don't want to name it. I always used to get the return rate of 2%. If I would have put the same money in the FD, I would have got 6%, 8% interest way back when I was a young guy and I was just coming out of my campus. So innovation is needed on building the product construct, and that is the area where we want to partnership. And we are happy to work with the companies to give them all the information what they need to build the products. Though we have a lot of information around customer in our central repository, we are collecting data from multiple places, and we do want to basically run a lot of analysis on it. Larger part of our business is around voice, and because to build the entire journey around acquisition and service and sales, we have been interacting with the customer. So we have invested deeply on voice to text in-house. We are very in-house driven, Börner, and we always believe that if we really want to make something innovative, we have to have control over the entire technology piece. So that's an area where we are stitching. Some of the areas where I think there's a broken journey, which is claims process. If you talk about general insurance, and let's take health insurance. I think I believe I'm one of those guys who actually understand insurance well, because been in the industry for 10 years, not from as an insurer, at least being as an intermediary. Still, I struggle to file my insurance claim, health insurance claim. I don't know where I should go. There are so many pieces which are broken, and those can be corrected by building certain kind of standards in the industry where you can bring different kind of parties, payers, providers, hospitals together and stitch the entire experience. So that's an area also we wish to focus, because it's not only about getting customers, acquiring customers, it's also serving them nicely. So that's two area largely we would continue to focus, and that's an area where we'll put a lot of effort. A third, which is very important, I think all of you would be experiencing, is WhatsApp. I promise the way Google changed the entire dynamics in the search portfolio, same way the WhatsApp is going to bring in a different experience during the chat, and it's becoming a very strategic channel for us to work towards it, and that's an area we will continue to invest. So these are the three areas broadly.
Very, very interesting. I think you mentioned some very interesting thing, and I could see a lot of our panelists also nodding at a few of those points. One clear takeaway is that you're clearly at a centerpiece to this whole industry, which you're collecting data across companies. I'm sure some are envious of you of the data trove that you have. You said that you're going to figure out how you're using the data already, and you're going to figure out more use cases for this data to be able to help companies. Hopefully, you're going to be a Tesla and Elon Musk and provide the data for free via charging. This is just a joke on the side, but definitely it is true that the position, I think Policybazaar is on the whole journey is really on the starting part of the insurance process. I would understand, not really on the claims part. I am also present on the claims part because I understand a lot of innovation and improving the experience aspect has to happen in that end. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. And I think that part is all about servicing the customer. As Mr. Mahapatra said, that you get a customer, but touch base, have engagement with the customer at various touch points of life. That's very, very important. And that will drive higher level of engagement with the consumer.
Right. Thanks, Sourabh. At this point, I will put up my second poll. Again, this is to make things and keep things interesting for our attendees. A quick poll to see what people think. And this is about what are the primary reasons that your organization is not able to provide a great experience to your customer? This is an insider view from the insurance industry. Just sharing the whole 30 seconds again, and our panelists can vote. So our question was, what are the primary reasons that your organization is not able to provide a great experience to your customer? We asked you to pick any two of the following choices. And 71% said customer 360 view. That's interesting. That's essentially saying that we're not able to have a complete view of the customer across different sort of touch points. And siloed processes. 53% also said siloed processes. So that would probably mean that the different processes across the company need to sort of interact and speak to each other. I mean, it sort of also talks about the touch point issue. My next question is for Mr. Mahapatra. Sorry, I thought somebody wanted to comment with the poll. Okay, Mr. Mahapatra, today a call from the call center, a visit by the agent, and any interaction on the website leaves me with a very disconnected sort of experience. This is just coming from the poll we just did and the answers to that. Do you think still married to AI/ML can help break the silos of these processes and help the customer get a consistent experience?
Yes and no. Because ultimately AI/ML will also follow certain processes. It learns from your processes. You still need to have the basic processes set right.
Right.
Therefore, it will take away some of those aberrations which happen in human processes. AI/ML learns and will continuously improvise and therefore give a consistent experience. But to have that experience, you must start with the basic of setting your expectations of the AI/ML solution. Because if you define your objectives and boundary conditions in a way that it is not really customer friendly, it will come up with a customer unfriendly process. So your boundary conditions and your assumptions still need to be correctly framed. And the other thing about AI/ML is it has to be constantly reviewed and challenged so that it doesn't, one hand, lead to wrong conclusions, and the other side, not develop biases, which it can very easily do. So that's something that will happen, and we are seeing a large transformation taking place in that area, be it right from the area of chatbots to in the entire customer servicing piece. I think that's going to be almost the norm in a couple of years' time with almost all companies, that chatbots would become a major customer servicing channel, like the call center or your direct branches or the website.
Right. Mr. Subharwal, would you like to add to that? And the view here is a consistent experience for the customer across all your touch points that he has with the company.
Yeah, so pretty much I think, putting together all the data, consumer data which is available, in some sort of what is architecturally called a data lake, or to have a customer 360 view, I think that's very, very crucial for any AI/ML tool to work, right? I think that's basic, and for any decision making tool, so to speak. So I think that's one area that a lot of effort that many organizations are doing, and some at the start of the journey, maybe some completed that journey. So that's piece number one, and then everything that builds on top of that, whether it be a chatbot, whether it be a customer responsive bot via WhatsApp, for example, in our case, about more than a dozen queries can be answered regarding your policies using a WhatsApp chatbot. Or we have something called as Insta, which our agents use. So if they have any policy query, they don't have to kind of get in touch with their supervisor. They can get that answer from a bot. So just putting the data together, and a lot of it is unstructured data. That is what makes it very, very difficult. And then there is data from the acquisition side, be it the trends that you see on the website, or on Google search, or any other media which is out there. Right? Just putting all this together, then you may have credit bureau data where you have scores, etc. From consumers, your own historical data. Just putting this all together and then using this data to improve customer centricity is actually kind of pivotal to this, to be customer centric.
Right. Mr. Chatterjee, I think so. I have a question for you, and this is a sort of a different take to the capturing the data sort of question, right? I mean, today every organization is adapting to and adopting digital to engage with customers. But what do you think are the ways in which organizations can build digital trust with their consumers while ensuring customer privacy is not threatened? I mean, this is one of the biggest looming questions today, right? Data protection, privacy of customer data. How do you view this?
Look, from a customer privacy standpoint, I believe it is very simple. Again, if you look at the framework right behind the whole GDPR and the Indian interpretation of the data privacy, it is finally around what's in it for me from a consumer standpoint, right? The personalization that we talk about, or n equal to 1, right? as long as we can deliver that, as an organization at each and every part of the value chain, at each and part of the journey, with a clear consent and unconsent, right? That's at the heart of it, right? Then the privacy piece is taken care of. See, many organizations today are struggling at the first part. What's in it for me at each part of the value chain? Just to give you an example, right? The bot, which is a norm now, as Mr. Mahapatra had said, as Vishal talked about. We saw 30 million footprints, right, from our bot, the AI-enabled bot that we had put together during just COVID times. We saw our self-service, went up around 70-80%. And I'm not saying that we take the credit, right? It was the time was such, and the tool was available, and right at that point when the need was there, the adoption increased. Right. So I'm not saying we take credit, the CIOs take credits or the CEO takes credits, or, or the organization takes credit for thinking about it early and being available. Now, along the way, if I can have, as Börner was talking about, the next best, question, again, keeping in mind what's in it for me, I would say the entire privacy angle, or the whole consumer, data or consent takes a completely new form or shape, right? So I think that question has to be asked in terms of what's in it for me. I'll give you another example. We created something called a motor on the spot, wherein even if you you don't have to submit the claim, you can actually take pictures of the car, the accident, submit it, auto approvals up to 20,000 rupees. Now, in this entire process, you would be surprised as when we saw the trust, right, beyond the fraud angle as an insurer, where we took it, back to the retail consumer and said, we trust you, right, to be able to give us the right set of pictures. Of course, as a techie, I will do all my checks and balances at the back end in terms of, our lat long and everything else, right? But when the machine algorithm runs, before that, I'm able to automatically approve this claim for you, and you can use wherever you want to go and, repair your car. Just that fact of instant approval, right? And after that, asking two more questions, right? Was this experience not just helpful, but can you give us, one or two pieces of information, right? Which helps us improve the experience from next time. I think that's where the entire paradigm is shifting. I'm not saying, we are experts at it. It's a journey. We are also learning, and there's a lot to do. But I think that paradigm shift more when you make, I think the Indian consumer is, I believe, is ready for that shift, is already ready for that shift, and the e-com, the payment platforms have shown that, right? But it is on us, incumbent on us, to ask that question and take it to the next level.
Thank you. I would ask Oliver to also add to that from a global perspective before getting in Mr. Tiwari and Prasad on the same question, because this is a very, very key question. I mean, data protection and privacy, and what is really happening in that space.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is that there's almost nothing to add, because what just the gentleman from Bajaj Allianz said is absolutely true, right? And this is key. Whenever you can explain to a customer, why you want this information and what's in it for the customer, and the customer can decide to provide this information, yes or no, then he will provide the information in most of the cases. But you need to explain it, and you needed to use it in a positive way for the customer, right? And that's exactly what I experienced. I have a lot of conversations in the last 2 to 3 years because of GDPR, and in some countries like Germany, our local law is even stricter than the classical GDPR. But still, if you ask or if you talk to the customer, then you will get the permission in most of the cases, in really most of the cases, and this is really key. This is really crucial. And maybe one thing that I just wanted to add regarding this artificial intelligence, AI, ML stuff, and so on. What is so important, is to understand that AI and ML can dramatically help. But we are not talking about this red button that you just press and everything will be fine. Okay? And this is really key to understand. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of these things will help, to get all the relevant information out of the huge amount of data that we have, and that we can get from all of the different touch points. It can help. but it will not give just the answer because of there is this artificial intelligence machine and we press the red button. Yeah, and this is really important. This is, by the way, and almost all of my customers admitted it, saying, okay, you know what? The first version of all of the chatbots around the globe were really, really average. Not because of the artificial intelligence engine in terms of to understand what somebody is typing in, but there was nobody who thought about what should be the right answer from the insurance company, to that. So the understanding of the information, so the algorithm, that's fine and that's great, but nobody really thought about what can we do with this information, to provide the right answer. And this is exactly how we need to think. And then, it will definitely help. And then getting back to GDPR, it's exactly the same. Explain why you need this information, give some examples of the benefits, and then you will get the permission to use it.
I think that's really interesting. And I think you agree with what Mr. Chatterjee has already said. Mr. Tiwari, you deal with a huge amount of data and you're planning different use cases of that data. How do you deal with the data privacy question here?
I think Saurabh summed it up so nicely. I need not to basically add anything onto it. But one thing which I'll just add, see, consent is important. And if the consumer understands that it is only going to benefit him, he or she would be ready to give. That's a point which is coming out from the from everyone. One more thing which I've seen is the trustworthiness. I think is our customers connecting with the brand, and they find the brand trustworthy and reliable, and that actually can be exhibited in the entire life cycle of a product purchase to service. So I would say a couple of points where we as a practitioner can actually put a lot of effort in servicing the client in a much in a better manner, and bring a lot of transparency in our work and on the platform on providing services to the customer. So transparency is another key where customers starts building a lot of affinity with the brand. So these are the two areas which possibly can also be added to what Saurabh said.
Prasad, would you like to add anything on this point, or?
Yeah. So I think just one thing. I think everybody said the insurers, I think, are following all the regulations, right, and are not kind of stepping over on data privacy. Their real job is to simplify and get data which is really relevant, right, so that they can use it. Today, I think in legacy systems, insurers used to collect a lot of data which they were not eventually using. The one thing that I think insurers have to be careful about is a lot of data that is coming to them today is not data they are taking. That is data coming from external sources, right? Social media, Aadhaar, bunch of other data sources, right? There are a bunch of fintechs which give you the mobile SMS data of the customer, etc. And I think on some of these, from a consumer point of view, there might be a gray line in terms of the customer haven't given consent. So I think that angle as an insurer, you have to think through in terms of what of this external data I feel comfortable with the customer consent and what of it I don't feel. Because that is where I see a bigger risk. Having interacted with all the insurers, they are more conservative about using customer data than the customer himself is, right? But I think there are a bunch of other sources where the customer is sharing the data and is now available to the insurers through all of these APIs, etc. And that is where I think there needs to be a need to be careful.
This is a very interesting element. I think it also sort of connects to the consent part that Saurabh sort of mentioned. I mean, when you're specifically sharing data for a certain use, that's clear. But when you're getting a data from another source where you have not typically given it for this use, I mean, it might be in the fine print of a Facebook privacy, whatever. Then there's definitely a question there, right? I mean, that's essentially what we are saying. Moving on to the next aspect. I mean, spoke about the intermediaries that exist today in the traditional sort of system. Mr. Mahapatra, how are you reimagining your intermediary landscape in the light of new age customer expectations? I mean, today's customer, what they expect, how are you looking at this?
See, at the end of the day, the customer expects the same kind of experience as he would on any other e-com or other platforms, similar platforms. Even if it is intermediated, he wants the same kind of experience or as close to the same kind of experience which Policybazaar gives him on a pure digital. So the entire work, I think, is to enable all the intermediaries, be it the agents, brokers, or the bank assurance partners, or even other uh, upcoming channels, to go fully digital, to give the customer a totally seamless journey, whether it's in buying, and equally important is to have these seamless journeys for all services. Because apart from claims, there's a lot of other services which the customer may require, right? From change of an address to change of contact numbers to change in sum insured and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So even these journeys need to be fully digitized and make him get in charge, that he is able to complete the entire transaction on a platform seamlessly. And that is what, and the same thing with the intermediaries also, that they should be able to not only initiate a service request, but also complete service requests. Then on the claim side, of course, a lot of work has been done on the back end, especially in motor, health, and in small value property claims. These also need to be stitched in seamlessly onto the various platforms. And that is what we are enabling our intermediaries to seamlessly work on these platforms, so that they are able to conclude all the businesses on the platform without physically interacting, which begins with prospecting from the customers to delivering the policy documents, service request documents and other things, checking up on all the notification of claims, follow up on the claims, submission of documents, everything.
Right.
So that is what we are enabling our intermediaries with. It's a journey which has been, of course, to an extent also speeded up by the pandemic. But even before that, I think most of us had started that journey, but now it has become all the more fast-paced of late.
Right, right, sir. So this is interesting. Instead of a shift in terms of your distribution, you are saying the traditional distribution model is being digitized. They're being enabled to deliver digital.
See, there are two things in that. One is, of course, the move towards a direct, which is there. But you also have a very strong intermediated business, and you do need these intermediaries if we are going to attack the basic problem of penetration. Today, all said and done, at the end of the day, penetration is abysmally low. Can I create more producers, more intermediaries in the smallest of villages, talukas in the country where we are able to pick this up? And that can be done only digitally. Physical process for that just will not work.
Got it, sir. Mr. Subharwal, would you like to add to what Mr. Mahapatra has just said about the intermediaries and how that is being sort of reimagined today?
Yeah. So obviously, I think first of all, I think it's very important to understand that the customer is now at the center. So to that extent, I think we have inverted the pyramid, right, which was a very distribution-centric, let's say, category, is now becoming customer-centric at a very rapid pace, be it on the product side, be it on the technology side. However, as Mr. Mahapatra said, intermediaries are important, and not just for penetration, but also for customer advice, because some of the products are complex, and not everything can be bought directly either from a comparison platform or from the website. So you have to look at the right set of technology and advice vis-a-vis a particular channel. So how you tackle or enable your proprietary agency channel is going to be very different from how you operate in an open architecture kind of a platform like a bank assurance or a broking channel, right? Because the customer need there is different. The customer need there is of assistance. It could be assistance in terms of form filling. But what you can do, you can definitely advise the agent on what is the product which is suitable for this customer. In case the customer has a query, the agent, for some reason doesn't know the answer, he can quickly kind of leverage technology to get an answer to that solution. On the price comparison websites like Policybazaar, for example, right, where customers are comparing products either on price or on claim settlement ratio, and it's a digital native customer, and a younger customer. The kind of experience and the integrations that you need to build are very, very different. They are both probably around efficiency and faster throughput, and because the advisory is taken care of, by the aggregator. So it varies by the nature of distribution, but technology is impacting every kind of distribution and every aspect of distribution.
Thank you, Mr. Subharwal. Before I move to my last question, I have one last poll for us, just to sort of, spice things up. I'm just putting it up on the screen. This is about digital transformation, and the question is pretty simple. So, digital transformation for you is. So, our question was digital transformation for you is ... There are 4 options, and I think overwhelmingly 86% said have a central orchestration engine to manage customer journeys. So this is interesting, and this is, I think, what we are already speaking about, a central point where all the sort of data across different touch points are collected, and it sort of brings about a consistency in the experience as well. Okay, so moving to our last question, and this is to Mr. Chatterjee. In our last episode, actuaries. So we did a first episode of the series with actuaries, right? And they saw insurers playing a role of proactive risk managers rather than merely providing compensation for loss. I mean, what are some of these initiatives that insurers are taking to embed this aspect into the customer experience, and what are their expectations from technology?
No, very pertinent question. So there are things where I take a contrarian view. This is one thing, I completely agree, right? The risk managers and the portfolio view of not just an individual customer, but also about the business is very important. You are not underwriting one risk at a time now. You are underwriting either the individual, you are underwriting the business, you are underwriting, more moving from an asset-based, more into the customer, individual as a customer or the entity. And I think that is happening on a very active basis now. If you look at, the SME segment, for example, now what is happening is traditionally we were selling one product at a time, whether it is the fire, whether it's the shopkeeper's policy and all. What is happening is now you have to look at inherent risk of that individual plus their family plus their business and and what they bring to the table. Therefore, the paradigm shift has to be, which is happening already. As instead of being just doing asset-based underwriting, you are getting into more of the the risk solution-based, and this is happening even in the on the corporate side. I'll just take an analogy of that into the consumer side. Now when you look at the consumer side also, what's again happening is we're not going ahead and insuring a vehicle. I mean, today we do that, right? We insure a vehicle, we insure an individual's health, but where is that customer level pricing? It's easier said than done, but the CLTV model is coming. I mean, there are various things, whether there are direct data, whether there is, as Prasad was talking about, there's a lot of surrogate data which is out there, the proxy data which is out there. Of course, you have to take it, you have to, the entire privacy and the aspect of trust around it is still a question. But I believe that some of these aspects are coming and coming very fast. The entire portfolio approach is catching up. What we are doing is we're looking at it from, rather than waiting for that risk, to come and take it one at a time, we are looking at what are the segments. And I don't mean by that just the consumer segment in the traditional banking way, right? In terms of mass or affluent or, those sort of definitions. We're looking at what are the segments that we serve on the retail side? What are the segments that we serve on the corporate side? How can we move to be risk managers for those individuals or entities or businesses, going forward? And that includes everything, even on the large risk policies, are we just merely providing an engineering, the policy, or are we actually providing something of value where the entire prevention comes in, where the entire consulting element comes in? So this is happening across the board, And I think tremendous effort and investment is being done by all insurance companies, because value is the value driven sales is now the norm. And I think you will see a lot of innovation from insurance industry in the next few years to come.
This is very interesting. I mean, in terms of motor insurance, do you invest behind making a better driver, or for health insurance, do you incentivize people to take care of their health and thereby, become a better customer for you? These are all very pertinent discussions. Mr. Mahapatra, would you have a view to add on this aspect?
Yeah. See, this was something which the industry used to do quite some time back. If you remember, there used to be something called as the Loss Prevention Association, but somehow that has got disbanded. But again, recently, even the industry and the regulators are coming together to work on it, because many of those initiatives used to get into making our world safer, be it on building codes, be it on finding blind spots on highways and giving decisions, recommendations as to how to improve those things. That's a big thing which is coming up now. Like what Saurabh spoke about SME and corporate, and particularly this is more so with SMEs, because corporates, especially the larger corporates, have a very strong risk management teams with them. But with SMEs, I think there is a lot of, I would say, knowledge transfer that we as insurers can help them with. Especially when we do underwriting, we use our risk engineers to assess the risk. There'll be a lot of findings. Can we proactively help the insured to improve the quality of risks? And what we have seen, especially in SME segment, is that improvement of risk takes very little investment. It is just to point out those small things which will improve the quality of risk. Say in a small manufacturing unit, just putting up 4 additional fire extinguishers may be the answer, and it does not take much. But in most cases, the owners of these SMEs are oblivious to the fact that those 4 fire extinguishers will improve the quality of risk, and thereby in the long run actually get them lower premiums.
Right, sir.
So this loss prevention and risk manager's role is becoming very important, considering the fact that we sit on a lot of data, and we see loss data, we see premium data, we see third-party data. We are able to give a lot of advice to customers, and that's what I think would be our duty in most cases.
Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra. That was my last question, and I'm just going to take. So we are already running very short on time. So I'm just going to take 2 questions from our audience. We have about 18 questions. Some of these are observations as well. But one sort of common one question that I've sort of noticed coming 2-3 times is, how are we educating our customers to get acquainted to digital channels and facilitating online sales? Because I think this is an important question from a company point of view. I'm sure we are investing quite a bit to train our channels, our partners, etc. But how are we educating our customers and which will ultimately facilitate online sales? How are we doing that? Mr. Mahapatra, if you'd like to take that, and then.
See, it's a continuous process of educating our customers, both directly as well as through the intermediaries if they are there. In very small things also we start doing it, apart from the normal engagement which we have through our digital channels in terms of any communication being sent.
Right.
That is where you can start building that. When you have a call for renewal, you can build up that, why don't you visit our website, use this, and renew your policy.
With
So
incentives,
small nudges are there,
right?
which help us to move it.
I think, Rodra, if I may add to what Mr. Mahapatra said, service to sales, right, is one very good area, and the nudges have to become smarter, because with all the whatever we do on the back end, right, at the right time, at the right moment, if we give that registers. And I go back to the first point that I was making when I was I got cut off due to the electricity here. It was also around self-focus, right? The more you provide value, right, the greater the trust. And when you say something, right, as an insurer or a brand, I think the adoption goes higher. So I think these three, a combination. I'm just repeating what Mr. Mahapatra said, but these are the three ways.
Sorry, very interesting. Mr. Subharwal or Mr. Tiwari, would you like to add to that? I'm sure from educating the customer point of view, it is significant. Especially Mr. Tiwari, you're considering your business completely online. But Mr. Subharwal, you first, please.
Yeah, Rodra, is that for me? I'll probably answer that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I think the customer has to see value in the transaction, right? Whether it is giving additional information, he or she has to get something in return. So, for example, if they give you a PAN number, you can tell them that okay, your KYC will get done automatically, for example. Or if you download this app, you don't have to visit a branch. You can do it 24/7. So there are ways of educating the customers. One is obviously the communication. One is also when you visit your physical channels, you can educate the customer about reducing the load on your physical channels, right? Because customers who are digitally enabled and who have moved up their digital maturity curve can definitely do a lot of transactions, financial transactions online.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tiwari, would you like to add, considering you're a completely online business, educating the customer has to be a very significant part of your focus?
I think most of the points have been spoken, and I think the point that is very relevant is that the sale, so that your customer comes back, the affinity towards your brand will only increase when you can build the trust.
Right.
So I think for that, you have to constantly, it's not at one point you have to build the awareness, it's every touch point where you are connecting with the customer, you have to build awareness towards what the customer is buying. Whenever the customer has bought the policy, how he's going to basically get the service. If at all he's buying a term life insurance, if he's not available, when he's not present, how is next person in the family is going to avail the claims. So those discussions have to be constantly happening at each and every touch point. That's what I would say.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Saurabh. So, sorry.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes, Mr. Ali.
Steve Jobs from Apple said it already 23 years ago in 1997. When you think about and we talk about customer experience, you need to think from the customer experience, and then you need to work towards the technology. So that means if we, and I think we all mean this, right? If you think about how can we educate the customer for the digital channels and this, how to explain the benefits and all of the positive things, which is good. But at the end of the day, it's a decision of the customer which channel he wants to choose. So if you are able to really show him benefits, then he will definitely, of course, choose the digital channels, and this will be commodity. If we try to push him, because we think from the technology perspective, and this is what happened in the previous couple of years in many industries, that people thought of, hey, we try to push our customers to the digital channels because it's cheaper. And then it's wrong, because then there's a high risk that you lose your customers. If you provide better services or additional services in the digital world, then they're happy to use the digital channels. Yeah? And I'm absolutely sure that, for example, Policybazaar, pure digital has a lot of benefits which are not possible, let's say, in the offline world in the same way. And that's the reason why the people choose this digital channel. And that's exactly what we need to focus on. Okay.
Sorry, sir, some audio issue. So one last question from the audience, and this is an interesting one. How do we use technology to preempt dissatisfaction? Can technology do that? Mr. Chatterjee, if you want to address that.
I'll take one example. I mean, there are voice analytics solutions available where you are actually looking at, all the voice recordings, and whether it is the tone, whether it's the words used, whether it is, the learning that is there in terms of the pitch, or what context, as long as you know the context of that, right? There are ways to get insights on who's most likely to, to go to the next level, which customers, grievance has not been solved. We have tried that out and it has worked wonders, for us, especially on the call center side, where it is used as an agent retraining tool, not just because when you do these audits, right, or the audits of the calls, these are voice recordings, are still you cannot go through each and every call, right, humanly impossible. But once you identify these sort of triggers, right, there are voice analytic solutions available which go through this and tend to help us from next time, whether it is the solving that problem, whether it was around the showing empathy. Because see, efficiency is one part, right? But then there's the whole around the empathy, piece, which as insurers we need, there's a very big element around that. So these are some of the learnings that that tech is available. How you use the tech is more interesting. I know, being a techie, I would say the tech is not the problem, or it provides all the solutions that are there. How you use the tech and what you do after you get the learning is more critical.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Also, social media monitoring, social media sensitivity analysis, all of that also. Yeah.
That also is there. Yeah, social media monitoring, brand monitoring, all on the digital marketing side, all that is there. But as I said, learning is more important and acting on it.
Right. Of course. Any addition to that? How can we use technology to preempt dissatisfaction and thereby provide a greater customer experience? Any additions?
So I'll just add something, Radra. It's a very normal thing which you all see in any kind of product that you buy on retail. But if we can start giving very decent projection on how much time a person is going to take to get a policy issued based on certain data pattern, that would be a huge benefit for the consumer. Because right now we really struggle. Some cases may actually go on a mode where we tend to become a lot reactive than being proactive. It's a normal thing, which technology, very simple technology can solve, but I think all the ecosystem players have to come together to solve this, and this will bring up a lot of satisfaction in people.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Sourabh, for that note. I'm just going to sum up our discussion for a few seconds, and then we will call it a close. One of the first points that was raised was, of course, that the pandemic has led to the higher uptake and a more rapid uptake for digital, but convergence of phones, digital technology, clearly the fact that bandwidth has become more easily available, smartphones are there in the hands of many more people, is really helping. This is for the digital uptake. Also, the consumer base is getting younger. Earlier, insurance was pushed, but now I think there's definitely a need case that is coming up, and brands are doing a lot to sort of increase the penetration. Brands have scaled rapidly on the digital front. So while this was clear that customer expectations have gone up significantly, but efforts have been increased as well. Mr. Chatterjee had an interesting point that a lot of the innovation work has been happening at the risk side, at the back end, and more work needs to happen on the interface with the customer, all the touch points that the brands have with the customer. Mr. Oliver had a point to make about, it's great to look at great customer experience. There are a lot of things you can do, but you can, of course, have to balance with the revenue. Many insurance companies in India have very strained balance sheets. And so it's very important to know how much you can spend on delivering a better customer experience, and definitely data and analytics can help us make smarter decisions there. Prasad mentioned this point as well about how, and in his experience with working with several companies, including SBI General, about how companies have been using data more efficiently. And this is something Mr. Tiwari also mentioned, that as a company, Policybazaar has been collecting data across many different verticals, many different brands. And now the idea is, how do we use this data going ahead in newer ways? to help both the brands as well as deliver a better experience for consumers. Finally, there was a major stress on a personalized experience because this is something which is going to be significant in terms of what a customer expects going forward. We cannot have a policy which is a one size fits all. This is something I understand most brands are already working on. From a Policybazaar point of view, a lot of innovation is happening around areas such as, not only using data, but voice to text, using WhatsApp as a method of engagement. On data privacy, we spoke about how consumers are comfortable sharing data as long as they know that they have a significant benefit out of it, and they're well explained why and how this data will be used. There is definitely a question mark on using data from other sources where you have not necessarily taken consent, but insurance companies driven by very, very stringent regulations, I understand, will be using this a lot more carefully. Lastly, on intermediaries, the view is that while the direct channels for insurance companies is going to rise, definitely the current agents and the traditional channels have to be digitally enabled. A lot of work is happening in this area, especially driven by the pandemic, which has created a new sort of impetus there. Thank you for joining us. This brings us to the end of our discussion. I want to especially thank our guest speakers for taking the time out to share their valuable insights with us. A big shout out to SAS for partnering with us for this series. This is the second episode of driving innovation in insurance. We will be back with a third very soon.